Welcome everyone to our open house, our US2 Hungry Horse to Stanton Creek open house. My name is Amy Aiello. I am the communication manager for this project. So let's go ahead and jump into this open house. So today we're going to see a presentation from the project team about the US2 Hungry Horse to Stanton Creek project details, timeline, the expectations for the project, and a lot more. In case your question does not get answered during the presentation, we're also going to conduct a question and answer session here at the end of this presentation. So feel free to ask your questions, anytime throughout. You should see on the bottom of your Zoom screen an icon indicating a chat function. Using this, you can submit a question, like I said, anytime throughout, or at the end during the Q&A session, you can also submit then. My colleague on the call, Katie Cleets, she's going to be facilitating that. So she's going to take notes throughout, and she'll be the one facilitating and delegating the questions at the end. On the screen, you should see the presenters for tonight's open house. From the Montana Department of Transportation, we've got Bob Bozen, John Schmidt, Ryan Paulson, Daryl Williams, Ben Nunnally, and then from Riverside Contracting, we've got Cale Fisher. You'll hear from panelists on their respective areas of the project today, sorry, it's the afternoon still, and you can ask any of them questions directly during the Q&A. For additional questions after this open house, you can follow up with me afterward. You can email me, call me. All my contact information is going to be on that end slide during the Q&A. So I'll be able to best direct your inquiry afterward and make sure your answers or your questions are getting answered pretty quickly after the presentation. So now I'd like to introduce the Department of Transportation's District 1 Administrator, Bob Bozen, who's going to speak about National Work Zone Awareness Week and also why this project is necessary. And let me turn it over to him.
Thanks, Amy. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Glad you're able to attend the open house today. I wish we were able to be doing this open house live and in person. We were able to have one last night. Today, hopefully, people that weren't able to attend last night's open house are able to join us today during the day. So it's a great way for us to be able to have multiple ways to interact with the public and answer questions and give an explanation of what we're doing, why we're doing it, when we're going to do it. So before we dive too deep into the project, though, I do want to point out the fact that it's National Work Zone Awareness Week. And this year, highway fatalities are higher than they've been in a long time. The numbers are kind of staggering. Here in Montana, our fatal crashes are more than double of what they were at this time last year. So I just want to really encourage all drivers to exercise caution when they're driving, especially in our work zones. The people out working on the roads, they're friends and family members of someone, if not actually the people that are in the work zone. So encourage, just use caution, be safe, be aware, and do everything you can to provide them with a safe work area. Remember, you are driving right through the middle of their office every time that you travel through a work zone. So just want to stress that and allow everyone to go home to their family at the end of the shift. So again, just pay attention, slow down, wear your seatbelt, don't drive impaired, don't drive distracted, and just be extra cautious as you pass through the work zones. So, and then moving on to the next topic of why is this project necessary? I know many of you are very familiar with Highway 2. This stretch of Highway 2 is really been deteriorating. The last winter was especially harsh on it. We've got some serious need of repair out there, especially from the segment from West Glacier to the east. But the whole stretch is in need of some attention. And this is part of our pavement preservation process, which is where we try to keep good roads good, figure out the most economical way to maintain our roadways. And we're going to be up there trying to repair that road and rehabilitate it, get it into as good a condition as possible. And hopefully we won't have to come back and work in the area for many years to come. And I recognize the timing isn't ideal. The challenge in this area is it's a relatively harsh climate. We have shorter summer than in other parts of the state. We have a more of a moisture concern. And then when we can get up there and work on the roads is when we have all of our travelers and tourists want to be there to enjoy the beauty of the area. So we are going to be working during the high tourist season. And we recognize the additional challenges that does present. But if we don't take on a project like this right now, we would be faced with potentially having to do a much larger scale project over a much longer period of time if we have to do a reconstruction or a full-on or a rehabilitation or a full-on reconstruction of the project. So I'm going to let the rest of the panelists get more into the nitty-gritty details about what's going on. I do just want to take a moment and thank those of you along the stretch of the roadway who have shown us a patience while talking about the project. We've spent a lot of time with outreach already, trying to make sure that we're recognizing the needs and the impact to the businesses and the residents of the area. So I just again want to thank you for that. Ask for your cooperation. Ask that you be cognizant of the workers as you're traveling through the work zone. And rest assured that we're going to do everything we can to get in and out of there as quick as possible. So recognizing the challenges is what's led us to have such a robust public involvement process. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Ryan, the project manager, and he's going to talk a little bit about the project area and what the timeline looks like.
Thanks, Bob. Hi, everyone. Like Bob said, I'm Ryan Paulson. I'm the project manager for MDT on the Highway 2 Hungry Horse to Stanton Creek project. I'm going to speak today about the project's proximity and approximate timeline. As Amy mentioned, if you have any questions throughout any of these slides, go ahead and leave them in the chat and we will get to them and address them in our Q&A session. As you can see on the slide, this project is happening on a 26-mile stretch of Highway 2 from Hungry Horse to Stanton Creek. From Hungry Horse to West Glacier, we should be able to maintain some flow of traffic, given that this project has wide shoulders and multiple lanes. We expect that travel lanes will be able to be shifted near where the contractor is currently working, although it will be narrower lanes and slower traffic due to the construction activity. From West Glacier to Stanton Creek, single lane traffic zones will be required with pilot cars. This is because of the narrow 2-lane corridor, and we just don't have the room to keep 2-way traffic going and can perform construction work. I should also note that not part of this project, there is a center line rumble strip project that will occur from Stanton Creek to Marias Pass this summer. There's potential that it could be happening at the same time as this project, but that'll be a short-lived project, so we shouldn't have to worry about it too long. So now I'd like to talk a little bit more about the timeline for this project. The project is scheduled to begin May 10th, and it will continue through to November. If the weather is bad this summer, there is a possibility we may need to come back next year and finish up some tasks. I will now pass it on to John Schmidt to go into more details of the work we will be performing on this project.
Thanks, Ryan, and good afternoon, everyone. And thanks again for attending our open house. My name is John Schmidt, and I'm the District 1 construction engineer for MDT. I'm going to be speaking to you all about specific construction tasks that are being done for this project and what you can expect for traffic conditions during your drive on this section of highway. This project is actually 3 separate projects put together, each with slightly different construction tasks. They're broken up into 3 sections of US 2. The first from Hungry Horse to West Glacier, like Ryan mentioned, the second from West Glacier to Nyack Flats, and then from Nyack Flats to Stanton Creek. This project is ultimately a pavement preservation project, so all tasks being done have been chosen in order to preserve the road for as many years to come as possible. 3 methods of pavement preservation will be used. We'll be doing cold in place recycling, milling and paving of the existing surface, and microsurfacing. All of these methods require a minimum temperature and dry weather, which is one of the main reasons why this work needs to happen during the warmest summer months. We need consistent temperatures of 60 degrees and rising, which only happens, as many know, during the summer. In this canyon, mostly during June, July, and August. From Hungry Horse to West Glacier, crews will be microsurfacing and milling and repaving. These are processes that remove the top layer of the existing pavement with a milling machine and require transport of the material to an off-site storage facility. New asphalt is then placed on top of the removed area of pavement. And then we come back with a process known as microsurfacing, and that is used to fill in the ruts and put an overcoat sealant on the entire surface. From West Glacier to Nyack Flats, crews will be using cold in place recycling process. This is a material recycling process that reuses the aggregate material instead of generating new aggregate. Roads that have been recently gone through the cold in place treatment will look like they're drivable. However, they will not be. When roads look ready but are still coned off, this means they're still curing or hardening. And we're just waiting to put traffic on them as soon as possible. Once the surface is complete, we'll be upgrading the guardrail in sections along the roadway. In the cities of Hungry Horse, West Glacier, Coram, and Martin City, we'll be making upgrades to the sidewalks to include ADA compliant ramps and approaches. Now I'll turn it over to Cale Fisher with Riverside Contracting to talk about what is going to be happening where and at what time.
Thank you, John. I'm Cale Fisher, the project manager with Riverside Contracting. As Ryan had mentioned, our contract start date for this project is May 10th. As I get into some of these dates, I just like to reiterate as well as all of our surfacing activities are temperature and weather dependent. So keep that in mind as we go over here, the schedule a little bit. We plan to start in the Hungry Horse area with crack sealing and ADA work beginning on the 10th of May. That work will be scheduled out through the end of May. The ADA work will be ongoing into August. We expect minimal work on that in June and early July due to scheduling conflicts with some other projects, but the work will continue with that. The cold recycle and plant mix overlay between West Glacier and Nyack Flats is planned to begin the week of June 21st and be completed towards the end of July. The cold milling and paving in Hungry Horse area is planned for early July and should last about a week. The microsurfacing work in Hungry Horse is currently scheduled for the end of July, early August, or end of August, early September, excuse me. But that work may be moved up depending on some of our other project schedules. And that work will take about 3 weeks to complete once we start. There's also work on 3 different bridges beginning with Moccasin Creek. The bridge repairs will follow the paving work and begin mid-July and are scheduled to be completed the first week of August. Moccasin Creek structure will take us about 3 weeks once we start, and we'll have another week at each of the other 2 railroad spans. We also have a lot of guardrail and barrier rail work to complete. This work will also commence following paving activities about middle of July, and it will be the last work we finish on the project around the end of October. We'll begin in the Hungry Horse area with the guardrail and then move into the West Glacier and Nyack Flats areas. We anticipate about 3 weeks of guardrail work in the Hungry Horse area, 7 to 8 weeks in the West Glacier East section, and 5 to 6 weeks in the Nyack Flats project. I'll now pass it back to John to talk about traffic safety.
Thanks, Cale. So as Ryan mentioned earlier, the multiple lanes on US 2 through Hungry Horse and Coram will allow us to keep traffic moving in that area. We're expecting delays could be up to 15 minutes, but really should be able to keep traffic moving. East of West Glacier, when we get into that tight 2-lane canyon with little room for traffic, we're really expecting this work zone to require single lane traffic zones and longer delays, potentially up to 45 minutes. this section is going to require pilot cars to navigate lines of traffic through 1.5 mile increments of construction zones. So we'll have 1.5 mile of construction, 1.5 mile break, and then another 1.5 miles of construction, and so on. Throughout the entire project area, we'll be utilizing smart work zone technology. This is essentially a network of temporary variable message boards that crews have the ability to update in real time in the work zone. So throughout the project, the signs that you pass will have accurate information about wait times and construction conditions. As with any construction project, there is a possibility for emergencies to arise. We always work side by side with local emergency services in crisis situations to make sure they have access they need throughout the work zone in case there is an emergency. Now let's take some time to talk more about the communication and public involvement plan for this project. And I'll let Amy discuss that with you.
Thanks, John. So I will briefly talk about the planned communication for this project before we hop over to the Q&A. So every Friday throughout this project, I'll be sending a weekly update email as well as a text message to explain exactly what we're expecting for the week to come in terms of construction tasks. So we'll also have a project hotline for this project staffed by my colleague, Caitlin, 5 days a week. So you can call or text this number during regular business hours and get a real-time update about the work that we're expecting for the next day, or really any questions that you have about the project. Like I said, Caitlin, she'll be informed of exactly what's going on, so you can check in with her at any time to learn what the project has in store. We're working closely with all of the regional chambers of commerce to get our message out far and wide across the business community, especially, and all the patrons and guests that are going to be coming to the area. Our goal, as with any construction project, is to get the word out as early and as often as possible. We're also planning to host weekly construction meetings on Zoom. More information about these meetings will be shared on the project website and through our weekly update emails. So with that, let's go ahead and jump over to the Q&A. As I mentioned, my colleague Katie is going to be facilitating this. So let's go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Amy, and thanks to all of our panelists for a great discussion. So far, we have 2 questions, and just as a reminder to everyone, if you do have more, or as we're going through this, if something comes to your mind, feel free to add that to the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. It looks like 2 chat bubbles, and we can type those in and continue our conversation. So with that, Charles asks the first question, which will be for you, John, and he's wondering what type of road surface in any of those construction zones he'll be driving on.
You bet. Thanks, Charles, for the question. So because it's a rehab, so when we, from Hungry Horse to West Glacier, when we move traffic around, so we'll be, when we neck the traffic down to 1 lane, you'll be either on the existing roadway surface, only in 1 lane, or you would be on the new micro surfaced section, but in 1 lane. So it should either be just like it is now or feel like it's brand new. And then kind of similar for the West Glacier to Stanton Creek. So we'll push traffic onto, when we 1 lane onto the existing road in 1 lane. We'll do our cold in place recycle. Once that's cured out and we need to work on the other side, we would put you on the cold in place and it would feel just like brand new pavement. And then all of that gets a pavement overlay also. So you'll either feel like you're on the road that you're on today or on a brand new road. There may be some intermittent times when you're on a little bit of a milled surface. But in general, those should be short-lived and short length.
Thanks, John. And following up on that, we had another question, mostly about the traffic control. And so this question is if an entire section will be one way the entire time, or if there will be work done in sections. You can maybe speak to the staging of this project.
Yeah, no, we'll try and do work in segments, typically in 2 to 4 mile segments, probably between Hungry Horse and West Glacier. And then from West Glacier to the east to Stanton Creek, like I said, we're going to do the work in 1.5 mile segments. So we're not going to, the intent wouldn't be to, from Hungry Horse to West Glacier wouldn't be to 1-lane traffic for the whole 10 miles.
Perfect. And so to that end, John, we have a couple of similar questions. Folks are asking what our construction hours might be, and if there will be any pilot cars as part of that.
So I'll answer the pilot car part of the question. So for sure, pilot cars from West Glacier to Stanton Creek, just because of the single lane and making sure we get people navigating the construction zone safely. Likely from Hungry Horse to West Glacier, you would just be in your own lane, and there may be some flaggers staggered throughout to kind of give direction and guide people. I'd like to turn it over to Kale to discuss the work hours. Kale, do you mind?
Yep. No, I can speak to that, John. Our typical shifts for working are on the road are 7 to 5 Monday through Friday. There are a couple extenuating circumstances to that. If we get rained out during the week, we'll probably work a Saturday to make up for lost days during the week. You'll probably notice to start seeing traffic control impact traffic on the road. They'll get out before that 7 a.m. start time, probably around 6 a.m. And then again, a little bit later into the evening, probably about 7 p.m. before we're completely off the road. There are a couple sections on the bridges when we do go to work on those that they'll be single laned 24 hours. That work we will be working on 24 hours a day until it's complete and we can open the traffic back up to 2 lane. So thank you.
Thanks, Kale. And so to clarify, we did have a question asking if there would be any work on Sundays, and it sounds like that is not the plan as long as everything goes to schedule. Is that accurate?
Yep, that's very accurate, Katie.
Okay, thank you, John. Next, we had a question from Ted, and he's wondering what the plan might be for cross-country cyclists. And secondarily to that, he's asking if bikes would be able to go through the construction zone or if they will need a shuttle.
Yeah, that's a good question, Ted. We're gonna work with the biking community. Obviously from Hungry Horse to West Glacier, there's a lot more room. And so we would expect those bikers to either go with the flow of traffic or use the shared use path that's out there. That section does have a lot of shared use path. And then from West Glacier to Stanton Creek, it's a really narrow corridor. We'll have outreach. We do have a lot of insurance problems with throwing a bicyclist and a bike in a car and driving them through the work zone. But that's something we'll work out on a case-by-case basis through outreach with that cycling community. And for sure, if you're part of that community, I would encourage you to reach out to Amy for more details, and any feedback or help you can give us on that front would be much appreciated.
Thank you, John. And Ted, if there's any follow-up, please feel free to add that back into the chat or to follow up with Amy. Next question is about a potential future phase of this project. So Leona is wondering about the section from Stanton Creek to East Glacier, and if the road will need to be resurfaced as well. And if that is the case, when would that project potentially happen?
You bet. I'd like to hand this one over to Bob to get his thoughts on the programming of this section of the highway.
Hey, thanks, John. Yeah, so from Stanton Creek to East Glacier, there is a segment from Stanton Creek to basically the top of the summit that is going to have a centerline rumble strip project taking place. that is going to be taking place generally this summer. I don't have the hard time frame on that, but also there is another segment that when just below you get to the top of the summit, you leave District 1 and you enter District 3, which is my counterparts or our counterparts in the Great Falls or District 3 area. I do know that they are looking to program a segment of that project that I believe is generally from the division line, which is just this side of Summit. And I'm not sure how far east it goes or if it ends at Summit, but they are looking at doing a segment of road that is in need there. Once that's complete, at this time, there's nothing further on our program, but we will continue to, like all of our roads, monitor them and try to keep the good roads good, if you will. So that may be something as simple as a chip seal or some kind of a thin lift pavement, or it could be something to the extent of what we're doing this summer, but currently there's nothing planned. All of our roads are constantly being monitored for pavement condition and trying to put together a program that meets the needs and the funding and blends the two together. Thank you very much for the question.
Thanks, Bob. We had another question, I think, going back more to the construction of this project. So John, this will be over for you. So somebody has asked if it's possible to complete the work in one section of a road at a time and then move on rather than keep coming back to the area time and time again. So he says, specifically, if you were to complete the work from Hungry Horse to West Glacier as early in the season as possible, this would really help with the traffic congestion during the busy months of July and August. So John, any thoughts on how work will be completed in sections?
Yeah, and you know, first I'd like to say that's a great point. You know, we would love to do it before July and August, but you know, as we've said, you know, that's really our best window to get the best product because of warm evening temperatures, warm daytime temperatures, and lower humidity. So with that said, you know, we do generally try to complete sections at a time, but it's a section at a time for each operation, right? So we would finish the milling and paving in a section, but then we still have to come back and do the micro surfacing in that section, and then we have to come back and we have to do the striping in that section, and then we have to come back and do the guardrail. And so we do try to do it that way, but it's kind of by operation more than just by it's really hard to just say all we're going to work on is Hungry Horse to West Glacier, because for Riverside, you know, that's probably not the most cost effective way to do it, and we do ask them to try and be frugal with the taxpayers' dollars. So we do ask them to do it the most efficiently and at the lowest price. And so, and then we ask them to figure out what that is. And so that's kind of how the sequencing gets figured out. And Riverside's going to do us a great job. I'm confident of that.
Great, thank you, John. And then the follow-up question to that is, if we're working in sections, essentially which section will we be starting in? They're asking if it will be West Glacier or Stanton to start. And then the reason behind their question, which I think is a really valid point and that I'm sure a lot of people are thinking of as well, is that they might be able to plan the best direction for their approach when they're going for hikes in the area, if they're going to be going from east to west. And then after that, probably a question for Amy, is wondering if there will be a website or somewhere resource where folks can go to see where work is currently happening. So John, over to you first.
You bet. So I'd actually like to hear Cale's thoughts on this. I know he has a plan of attack and a schedule. So Cale, can you just give us a little more detail on east to west versus west to east and what your thoughts are there?
Yep, definitely. So again, once we do start with the surfacing operations, the cold in place recycle will be the first thing to start, and we'll start at West Glacier and progress to the east. And then with the milling and paving operations, which follows that, we'll start in the Hungry Horse area again and progress east. So everything will work from west to east.
Thanks, Gail. And then Amy, do you maybe want to speak to where folks can sign up or look for most current information?
Absolutely, I do. Yes, so we do have a webpage. I was just pulling up, we have a bit.ly link that leads to the longer Montana Department of Transportation website webpage that we host on. So there I'm going to post every weekly update. We'll have them all logged in our webpage, as well as all of the project materials. We've got frequently asked question document. We have obviously this will be there as well, these slides, and really all of the project information that you might need to know will be hosted on that web page. It is live now. I need to confirm the bit.ly link, and then I can share that. And I'm sorry I didn't put it on this Q&A for the contact information, but if you go to the Montana Department of Transportation's website, it is under active projects, where you can find all of the construction happening right now, all the studies, anything live, active. And this will be under the, it's actually the very last project on the webpage. So if you scroll the way to the bottom, you'll find it, but I will get us that link too and share. So that is where all the information will be hosted on the internet. So.
Thanks, Amy. And I'm throwing that into the chat now, so everyone will also have that link. Our next, yeah, of course. Our next question is what we will be doing essentially when we recognize that there are going to be slower speeds and increased traffic, and folks are likely to be frustrated. So somebody is asking if there will be additional law enforcement patrols, and if there will be folks where people might be able to get some business support along the way. So John, over to you.
Thanks, Katie. I'm just trying to make sure I understand the question. So for sure, we work closely with the Montana Highway Patrol, and we have been in contact with them about this project. They know about it, and they're ready to support us. We do want to try and keep everybody safe, and that includes the people that get frustrated. Everybody gets frustrated. It's just part of human nature, right? So we want to keep the traveling public safe, and we also want to keep the work zone safe. And like Bob said, this is our office for the next 6 to 8 months, and so we really want to. We do want to keep the work zone safe. So we appreciate, that there could be issues getting in and out of out onto the highway, like at Essex and Pinnacle. So, if it turns into something where our construction zone is causing ripple effects up the line towards the pass, we would look at if whether or not there's something we need to do to help facilitate getting people in and out of Highway 2.
Thanks, John. And one part of the question that I inadvertently missed was if there will be reduced speeds throughout the entire construction zone.
Right. So we'll reduce speeds where we need to. We don't like to set unrealistic expectations for people. So setting a reduced speed in an area where it doesn't need to be reduced is not in anybody's best interest, because that helps lead to the frustration. But at the same time, if we yo-yo the speed limit, we call it, so make it go up and down a bunch, we also start to cause some confusion. So it's kind of a compromise between trying to do what's best for getting people through the project and also trying to do what's best for keeping people safe. And so we certainly won't set speed limits for fun to reduce them. That's not what we do. That's purely at the intent to keep people safe. So if we can raise speed limits in places, that's what we'll do.
Awesome. Thanks, John. The next question is from Amanda. She is from the Gateway to Glacier Park system, and she's stating that they have a 7-mile off-highway paved path from Hungry Horse to West Glacier. And she's wondering what impacts on the path they could anticipate for the recreationalists and trail maintenance and cleanliness, etc., if any, during this project.
Yeah, that's a good question, Amanda. I'm gonna defer to Ryan Paulson on this one. He'll have more information on what exactly how we're gonna impact that path.
Thanks, John. I had a little trouble there finding my mute button. The path shouldn't be impacted too much, although I would still suggest caution. We do have construction equipment out there. There could be flying objects that we don't anticipate, but we shouldn't be impacting that hardly at all, I wouldn't think.
Thank you, Ryan. If there's nothing more on that, and Amanda, feel free to reach out to us if you need more specifics. We're happy to get those for you. One of our last questions is essentially their timeline. So Austin's wondering what the best estimate of a date will be that both lanes will be finished and open to traffic between West Glacier and Stanton Creek.
That's a hard question because it's all driven by weather and stuff like that. But best guess I would say is probably the end of October, middle of November. We would hope to have it done sooner than that, but there's just a lot of variables in there, and then we do have to install all that guardrail. So even though we get the surfacing done and it's a brand new road, there is still a lot of guardrail in that section. So it'll be probably the end of October.
Thanks, John. That's a really good point of clarification. With that, I don't see additional questions, but I know our team is happy to stay on the line as long as folks do and continue answering any questions. Amy, is there anything that I'm missing in the interim?
No, Katie, I'm not seeing any more questions. I've been taking some notes here. Amanda, I know we've been in contact and just about the cycling community. So I've been, just trying to take note of, what everyone is interested in and finding out more about, so I can, reach out individually or certainly be able to answer your questions if you have any for me. My email's on here. Happy to chat through anything that's been brought up on this call, or also if you have anyone else that that wasn't able to attend today, this recording is also going to be on MDT's YouTube channel probably sometime next week. So if you know someone who wasn't able to attend but is curious to learn more about the project, please feel free to send them that link. It'll be included in our weekly updates as well. So gosh, other than that, Katie, yeah, I think we've about covered it, unless anyone else on the call has any additional questions for us.
We did just have one more come in, Amy, thank you. So Eric is wondering if there will be any weight restrictions for semi trucks in the construction zone. So another good one for you, John.
Yeah, so all the truck traffic, all the traffic is required to meet legal size and weight while on the highway, even in the construction zone. So anybody that's overweight or oversized is going to require a permit. And then that'll and coordination with our traffic control if they're oversized specifically, because it is going to be a restricted width for sure between West Glacier and Stanton Creek.
That's a really good question. Thanks for that additional info, John. Excuse me. Otherwise, that seems like the last of the questions that we have. Amy, what are you thinking in terms of wrapping up?
Maybe find my unmute button there. Sorry about that. Well, yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone who was able to join today. And as it was mentioned earlier on the call, We also had the open house in person yesterday. We had about the same number of participants for each, so that's quite handy. So please feel free again to reach out. My email's still on the screen here. Project hotline is listed as well. So any questions you've got, we're happy to answer them. And if you want to sign up for the weekly updates, there you'll find out more information about specific construction tasks happening and when. And then, of course, if we have additional open houses coming up throughout the project, of course, those weekly construction updates, all of that is going to be in those weekly updates, which I did mention will also be on the webpage. So again, just really want to say thank you to everyone for being willing to listen to us and learn some more and help us get the word out about this project. So thank you seriously so much, everyone, for being on the call.